Welcome to Season 2 of You and Me Kid, a podcast about starting and raising a family on your own, where I speak with other single moms, those still considering, and experts in relevant fields to give you a real sense of what the day-to-day experience of solo parenting looks and feels like. So wherever you are in the process, I hope this podcast provides some support, helpful info, and most importantly, humor. Thanks so much for listening. Now let's get to it. I'm so glad you told me you're having another baby because I'm like, it's such a great update. And it couldn't be better timing for me because I'm just in that stage of like, can I, how would I, how on earth does a single mom have two babies? But let's start. Remind me, how old are your kiddos right now?
Yeah, so Jude is 11. He turned 11 in February. And then Hayes is turning 7 in July.
Okay, so they're a little bit older.
Yes.
So you don't have like littles.
Exactly. So it's weird. It's weird that I've become that mom that has, like, I was sitting at the pool the other day and I was sitting on my seat. Yeah. And I was watching my two kids swim in the pool and I didn't have to be there, I needed to be there overseeing, but I didn't have to be in the water, It's definitely a unique season where I think some people would be like, you're crazy to bring another baby into the picture. I don't know. I feel like life is wild and it's sort of been par for the course for me. I guess I'm like a late bloomer. I don't know. I'm not in some ways because I've always been an old soul on one hand, and I've always been able to kind of chart my own path and feel confident and fine about it. Not that it hasn't come with hard moments, because I certainly don't want to say that I haven't had those. I have. But on the other hand, it's like from a very young age, I wanted to be a mom, and I thought I'd be a young mom, and I thought I'd have like 4 or 5 kids.
Hey guys, thanks so much for listening to this episode of the podcast. As you know, this season I partnered up with California Cryobank, the #1 sperm bank in the US. California Cryobank ships to over 40 countries and has one of the largest and most diverse selection of donors out there. They are offering my listeners an amazing deal for Season 2 that gives you free access to their Level 2 subscription, which lets you check out baby and adult photos of the donors. To use this code, visit cryobank.com or click the link in the episode description and use my promo code YouMeKid, YOUMEKID, for a free Level 2 subscription to their donor catalog. California Cryobank has helped tens of thousands create the family of their dreams, and hopefully you're next. Now, let's get back to it.
And it was just very different than my experience. I adopted Jude at 35. I delivered Hayes at almost 40. I was almost 40 when that happened. And then now I'm 46. And what happened on this baby is, God willing, I mean, I don't have this baby yet, but I'm hoping and preparing and expectant for a third, our caboose. And I know I sent an email to you. I don't know if on the last recording I said I was done. That may have honestly been a conversation we had, and I don't even remember in September. So it'll be funny if you hear that. Because honestly, last September, I was really thinking, I probably was. I had always left the door open with my adoption agency. And I had always said to her when I had referred other families to her, or when I had talked with her for a catch up, I'd always said, like, my door's open, come if there's a need, please come to me. If you have a need, please contact me. And she hadn't in a long time. I did get contacted once when I was pregnant, very pregnant with Hayes. So I talked with you in September, and in October, she called me out of the blue and said, hey, we've had this conversation many times where you've said to me, let me know if there's a need. And so I'm calling you and I'm asking you now today, is your door still open? Because I have some need for potential adoptive families. And I was just blown away because in my heart, I knew I had not shut the door yet. And so I thought on it and prayed on it for a couple of days. And I said to her, I'm in, like, if there's a need. I did say, this is definitely the 11th hour. You got me right at the end. Like,
a few more months and the gut response might've been a little bit different, but
That's right. It's
so interesting that you say that, because I do think there's something really kind of physical and emotional about it, because I'm in this place right now. My daughter's 2. I still have a few eggs frozen from freezing eggs prior to even the IVF process with Ellie.
Yeah.
And I get that bill every month for them being frozen. And I'm trying to really pay attention to how I'm feeling about, do I want to have another baby? Has that door closed? And then if it has, what do I do with these eggs?
Right.
And the thought of, donating them or something at this point just isn't like, I'm just still kind of holding on to them. And so you do really have to pay attention to that gut feeling of like, is this
Yes.
right? Do I want this? Because the reasons you can't or shouldn't or it's crazy are overwhelming, but you just have to kind of pay attention to that internal
That's right.
compass, I think.
That's right. And I heard a great quote from Christine Kane, someone who I love, and she had said something. I'm gonna not say it exactly, but the heart of it was like, people may not understand your path, and that's okay because it's not their path. They're not meant to understand your path. You have to get to that place of peace and understanding of what's right for your life, and for me, I believe that's between me and God, and so, and someone else may not understand, and that's okay. And I don't need them to. And so it's almost like a practice too, for me to be like, some people may have an opinion about this. Some people may be like, you're too old, or why, a baby at this age, or a baby when you have kids that are older and things are getting easier temporarily. I know, because we've got other things coming ahead of us, obviously, but I'm sort of in that sweet middle, and I'm aware of that. So some people are may have different opinions about it, but I think if I haven't learned by now, through my path along the way, just to how it's already been, that I can't listen to the noise of the world or other people's opinions or the other people's experiences. Other people may not want to do the sleepless nights and do the bringing the baby in and the toddler and the worrying about falling down a staircase, or, these different things. But some people are, and there's not a wrong or right there. That's about, individual families. It makes me think too, like some families have 6 kids and some people have 1, and some people choose to not have any. And it's a we can't put our heart's desires onto other people's choices, because we're all very different. We're all made very different.
Yeah. When you got that call, I remember us talking a little bit about kind of Jude's story and you spending some time in countries that were neighboring to where Jude was born, and that feeling like this, like kind of amazing kismet in you guys getting kind of joined together. Is there a similar story with this baby, or how did it feel like this baby was your baby?
Yeah. Okay. So that's where, and this is where I don't have my baby yet. So
right.
I feel like there's this, like, in my heart, I feel and know that there is a baby for our family, but I have not yet been matched with a birth mother or with a baby. The agency I work with does a lot of hospital drops, or meaning she often has hospital drops. So in that way, what that means is a baby is born and is in need of a home it could be 100 different reasons why. What I've learned along the way is it's not one story or one thing. It's like there could literally be 100 different reasons why a baby is born and needs an adoptive family, and why that wasn't matched beforehand, and why that decision wasn't made until that moment, or the baby was born, or right before the baby was born, or right after the baby was born. So it's one of those scenarios where, I'll get a phone call, most likely out of the blue, that'll say, the baby's here, that quick. So it's exciting to think about. Like, I have no idea when it'll happen. So what that means for me, sometimes people are like, what do you do? So after she called me, the agency, I did my home study again. So I updated my paperwork and I had to do another home study with a social worker. And once that was all finished, then I just was waiting. Now we're just in a waiting zone. So essentially we just are preparing for and getting ready for a baby, but we don't know when the baby will come.
Oh my gosh.
And it could be tomorrow, and it could be in a month or 3 months. And, my only experience I had was with my first, is that when my home study was approved, it was December and he came in February. So it's just 2 months later. And in this scenario, I did my home study, was finalized in November, and we're in June. And so I've had a longer wait. It's been more like 7 months. But in my mind, I'm like, well, I mean, a pregnancy is 9, 10 months. So in my mind, that's kind of par for the course in waiting for a baby, but it could be before then and it could be longer than that. And we just sort of laid it down.
Yeah. I'm so curious, and this is very much a selfish question, in that when you went from 1 to 2 and now
Yeah.
you're going from 2 to 3, I'm in this mental place of I'd love to grow my family. I don't know, like when I think about the finances of two tiny humans in full-time daycare, that freaks me out. And then the idea of just the logistics. When I get out of the car at the grocery store, when because I'm now running full speed after a 2-year-old everywhere. And I'm just like, how would I do this with only two hands?
Right.
Tell me how you do it.
Yes. Well, I can
How do
only,
you
yeah,
do it, Natalie? What's the
I know.
secret?
Well, it's crazy because I feel like, when you think about families going from like two-parent families going from 2 to 3 kids is like a solo mother going from 1 to 2 because it has to do with being outnumbered.
Totally.
Right. So it's like 1-to-1 combat, and then going on to like 1 to 2 or 2 to 3. Yes. So it is overwhelming to think through. One thing I shared this when I talked with you last, but I did have a miscarriage when I was trying to have Hayes. And so then when I had Hayes, it was sort of like a year longer than I had thought I would have. And I can honestly look back and say, this doesn't mean I'm not pleased here. There's not a right or wrong for everyone, but this was my real lived journey. And now I can look back and say and see like, well, that extra year actually helped because what it did for me and my family was it allowed my oldest son to go into public school before I needed the baby to now have daycare. So one rolled off of childcare and went into the public school system and the other one came. So I never had to pay two children in that early childcare system at the same time.
Yeah, I keep thinking about that one, but I'm 40, almost 43. So I'm like in that boat of, if I do it, how would I do it?
Yes. So that helped me financially, but I think there's some other things too. I mean, I think there are creative ways of looking at childcare. And I mean, I know this sounds crazy because to me, I always thought it was more expensive, but honestly, from what I understand, like having an au pair is when you have 2 kids is more affordable than having 2 kids in childcare.
Oh, by a long shot. I just did an episode that aired a few weeks ago, actually, with a friend who has an au pair, and the numbers are really incredible. And if you can find a good fit, which she has, I think it's been an amazing experience for her. And it's a drop in the bucket compared to daycare or a nanny. Yeah.
Yes. So there are, it would maybe change what you're doing now, but maybe if you did add, or if someone decided to add a second and needed to be a little creative, there's kind of some different routes. It may mean changing what you're doing now in order to have the 2, but there are some creative ways of seeing that happen. In terms of being outnumbered, I will say, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I had a panic
give me the real story.
I legit I'd never had a panic attack in my life. And my mom was with me. And the day we were leaving the hospital with Hayes, I had a panic attack before we left. And it was so eye-opening for me for a few reasons. One, I'd never had one before. So in the moment, I didn't really realize what was happening.
Yeah.
And then 2, and it just wasn't like my personality to and I don't mean that. I just mean, I think in stressful, hard moments, I tend to kind of go into a Zen place. And that's my normal response. So this response, I was like, what is happening? I didn't know what was happening. It also allowed me to be more compassionate and understanding of people who struggle with panic attacks or anxiety in that way, that it made me aware of it in a way I hadn't been to physically feel that. And the nurse came in and actually was able to help me and calm me down. But the concern was, how am I going to do this? Like, it was that overwhelming, like, how am I going to love this baby as much as I love my first baby, who I'm so bonded with? How am I going to have enough hours in the day between work to give this baby all I've given that baby?
Yeah, I'm right there.
yeah, this baby's going to suffer because I'm not going to be able to give this baby the same that I gave him. And like, it just, there's not enough hours in the day and all that. And I was having all these thoughts, but then, and having a literal panic attack. But the truth is, like, I got home, I vividly remember like putting him in his DockATot in the living room and sitting down. And I was sitting on the couch looking at my two kids, like in the living room. And he came over, Jude came over and was like loving on his little brother. And my heart just melted, you know?
Yeah.
It's like saying, I'm your big brother and I'm going to love you and I'm going to take care of you. And, you know, and they are the best of friends. Like if you could see them,
Sweet.
you know, they have their moments, but like they have been like, they haven't even wanted to go this week to day camp because even though they're loving day camp this summer, because they're just like having so much fun with each other. And they're telling each other, I hear them telling each other how much they love each other. And they, you know, like, I'm so glad you're my big
So
brother.
sweet.
And you're the best little brother. It's just really sweet. So it's interesting because like all the fears kind of melt. There's realities, of course there's realities, but just like you did with the first,
Yeah.
you make things happen for your babies and you figure it out. You know what I mean? You figure out the support, you figure out creative ways. And yes, it's different with the second child. But one thing I wasn't thinking about when I was so worried about this baby's not going to get all that. Well, this baby, the second baby got not just me, he got his big brother too.
Yeah.
And and Jude teaches Hayes stuff left and right that I don't even think to, you know, teach my child. And it's because they're more like peers and brothers. And so, in fact, Hayes has a whole other world open to him because it's not just me that's part of his upbringing.
Yeah. When you think about going to 3, are there things that you are nervous about kind of in those same realms?
Yes.
Where's kind of your head and your heart in terms of preparing for this expansion of the family?
One thing I've been thinking about is like, okay, I'm going to be needing childcare for her. I was thinking the other night, okay, I can, by the way, I've asked for it to be a girl.
You just said that and I was like, wait.
Yes. So that's, you know, it was one of those things where before, like with Jude, I didn't choose gender or, you know, like I was open. And with Hayes, I did insemination and didn't pick, obviously. And love having boys. It's so funny. Even 2 weeks before my agency called me in September, Hayes was on the counter. I was brushing his teeth and he said he wanted a little sister and he had brought it up a few times. And it's so crazy how God does that. Like I told him in that moment, like, wouldn't that be fun? And if that happened, it would be through adoption because mommy had a hysterectomy. And I told him what that was. And we've been having these discussions, like kind of some birds and bees discussions, very low key. So I was able to kind of talk about that mommy can't have a baby anymore, but that we could adopt. So it would be through adoption if we did. And not 2 weeks later, she called me out of the blue, which I feel like that was like priming my heart. Like just, you know, these things happen, you know, and you can weave them all together in hindsight, which is really sweet and encouraging. But yeah, I think I was realizing the other night, you know, when this baby is going into public school is about the time I'll be then ready for Jude to be going to college soon. So if he goes to college and, you know, I hope he does or pursue something, you know, that next steps, whatever that is. So I feel like, the thing that I'm now kind of thinking about is actually the later stuff. It's more like college and cars and, you know, opportunities.
Those big finances in the older stages. Gosh, older stages. Think about that.
Yeah. And but having the second child has helped me be less stressed about the near term. So like, I'm not as concerned about, I'm like, okay, like we figured it out once before, we'll figure it out again, kind of what that looks like for the early days I'll have formula for this baby. That costs a lot, you know, and diapers and that kind of thing. But, you know, like we'll have a plan and we'll take care of those things. I'm more thinking about the longer term things at this point.
Yeah.
Making some steps towards that, you know, going, okay, am I maximizing what I can right now? Am I reducing expenses we don't need? Am I maximizing ways to save for the future, et cetera?
I am often kind of rebalancing almost on a day-to-day basis, this pie of time with my daughter, personal time and rest for myself and work. And it on any given day, like those percentages change, right? Or I check in with, I really need some time with a friend without the baby today. Or gosh, I would love to meet up with a bunch of other families and have a big chaotic kind of barbecue. And every day they're kind of different. Some days I need a nap. Some days I need to get outside. How do you balance all of the things as a working mom of two and hopefully soon to be three? How do you get time for yourself? How do you see friends? Talk me through kind of what your strategy has been for making sure you're also taken care of.
It's interesting because having a 2-year-old, like I don't feel like until Hayes was almost like probably around 3 that I felt like I like truly cleared the postpartum fog. And I know for some people, they come out of that way faster. For me, it took a long time, So I didn't do the greatest job of balancing it. And there was also COVID in those years for me. So I feel like it was sort of like survival, like, making sure my oldest was getting his schoolwork done online. I was working online, had the kids home, and that's hard. And Hayes was quite, a baby. He was a baby toddler. And so I feel like I felt like I was kind of sequestered in a lot of ways in those years. I've always had an incredible village. And I know I said this in the first time that we talked, is that my parents are a huge part of our village. They live in our house with me. And that is a huge support, that allows me to. Last night, as an example, my neighbors last minute were like, let's all go get Mexican food, the girls, like all the women on our loop. And I got texted and I could do it because my dad was able to take Jude to soccer and my mom stayed home with Hayes and I went to dinner. And I'm not doing that every night, but I'm doing a better job of saying yes when I get asked than I was before, because I know I need it. And because I am in a place now where I'm like, okay, when the new baby comes, I know it's important to do it every so often. I know that it's good for my mind and to, that kind of thing, and to clear my mind and to be with other adults and have adult conversations. So my encouragement is to say, you don't have to say yes all the time because it's just not possible, but to say yes as much as you can, to have those moments. And to have another thing that I did when my oldest child, Jude, I lived in a duplex with another mom and child, and we are good friends. We both were solo adoptive moms. And this is when Jude was a toddler. And so we would help each other out a lot. So my parents were living in Round Rock and I was in Austin, and they still would help time and, here and there, but it wasn't regular. It wasn't on the daily because it was a little too far for like these last minute, like go grab dinner with a friend or something. So we did a lot of trading off. Like I would take care of the kids and she'd go out, and then she would watch the kids and I would go out to dinner with friends or whatever. And that was also helpful. So I know a lot of people don't have the blessing of having maybe parents or grandparents or aunts and uncles nearby who they feel comfortable asking. But I think that if you can find some friends that you feel comfortable, the answer can be no, of course, because there's times when we can't help each other. But to have one or two people that you can say like, hey, could you trade with me? Like, can I watch the kids one night and you watch the kids one night? Well, what dates would work for you? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
And being able to kind of trade and then not having to pay a babysitter.
Yeah. I found an identical kind of setup in that I need those moments. I don't need them as much as I thought that I did.
Yeah.
Having a baby, I was
Agreed.
like, oh man, I'm going to be so excited to like take a girls trip. And I am occasionally, but that kind of a 2-night maximum of the third day, I really miss her and I need to be back. And that's so different than what I thought. Or even dinners out. It's like, yes, if it's the right invite with the right group that I know is going to fill my cup, and I'm going to come home just feeling so positive and supported or inspired or whatever, it's amazing. But I'm certainly not saying yes to all the invites.
Yes. I'm with you.
Yeah. And I think it's, I think when you're, maybe it's partnered families as well, but when you are a single mom, when you have that first baby, everyone's like, how are you going to do this? And then you build this amazing little family and this balance. And it's like, we've got our system down, like I've got 2 jobs and I've got Ellie in the daycare. And like, we're just in this really good zone. And the idea of adding a third, like makes me think I would be upsetting that apple cart. But I think you made such a great point, which is what people told me pre-first baby too, which is like, there's a human with a fully formed personality coming into your life, and they add so much
Mm-hmm.
and you don't know what they're going to add and in what way or what they're going to be like. And so when the person comes in, not just this like future baby amorphous being, it does change everything. And obviously I think the love for the family expands. I of course believe that. And you just kind of figured it out. But I mean, and I think all the time, I have partnered mom friends who travel with 2-3 kids all the time, and they manage to do it. So it's the logistics of travel or daycare or getting out of the car to grocery store. Those things have been tackled by single moms, partnered moms for years and years, right? There's a way to do that.
Yes.
When we talked last time, you were pretty regularly taking both kids to Africa, right? Or at least once a year for your work.
Normally in the summertime. Yes. So we're not going this summer because we're waiting, God willing, on a baby. And I was able, work-wise, I was able to, the trips that are going are fine. Like they're covered, where I don't need to go. So, but next summer, God willing, all three of us, I mean, well, all four of us, but all three of the kids, God willing, if we have her, and I hope we do. I mean, that's the thing with adoption, you don't have a guarantee, but I'm feeling hopeful. I'm feeling expectant and like that movement is happening. So yeah, that's the hope, is that we'll do it again the next summer. I may need another set of hands on the plane.
I was going to say, I mean, 12-year-old at that point is like really there in terms of like 12, 8 and baby. Is that right?
Yeah.
At that point, that's right there.
Yeah. You just you go to the airport and you're like, okay, mission other side, and you just do it. It's just like cranking. You just crank. And then the truth is, for me, is that when I get to Rwanda, I have, wonderful family, chosen family there of different relationships and friendships. And then I have colleagues, and the culture is just so celebratory of family and children and stuff. So I really feel like I have a lot of support once I land. So for me, it's just and then I feel the same way coming back. So it's like, if I can just get through the flight. Yeah. Yeah. And you do.
Natalie, one of the things that we may have talked about in the previous chat, but that comes up a lot with questions to me is, I think people assume that I have a lot of moments where I wish that I had a second set of hands, that I wish I had a partner, I had a husband, etc. I have not had those moments. Very excited at some point to meet a partner, but I haven't felt like I've had all these moments in the past 2 years of like, God, I just wish this would be so much easier if. I haven't felt that way at all. And in the moments that I have felt it, it's like the funny moments of just like, I just want to get the groceries out of the car, 2-year-old child. Can you just be independent? It's not a single mom moment. It's just a mom moment. Do you have those moments where you wish there was, you've got your family with you, but do you have those moments of like, gosh, I wish I had an extra set of hands. I wish I had a partner. And those are two different things, of course, right? But
honestly, I don't have them often either. And I feel super content. And that's not to say that like you said, like I'm open to meeting someone. And if that's God's will for me, and if someone comes to me and says, I have this great man I want you to meet, I'm going to say yes and go meet him. Of course.
For sure.
I'm open to that. I'm open to it, but I'm not pursuing it, meaning I'm open to organically meeting someone in life, at the soccer fields, at the grocery store, at work, doing life.
Playgrounds. Where else do we go? Grocery store, playground, soccer field. Yeah.
Yes. Those places, I could meet someone organically, or someone could set me up with someone, and that's how I would meet someone. And that's great too. My parents met on a blind date. But I'm not going to take time away from my children, who I believe deserve me in this season, meaning to do online stuff. And I'm not against online stuff. I'm just saying in this season, it's just not right for me, because it's a lot of trial and error, and it's a lot of first
time.
That you wish, I wish I wasn't here right now, kind of thing. But
I'm right there with you. It's got to happen organically. But I haven't, similar to, I think, on the flip side of not needing trips away or time away from my child like I thought that I would have. On the flip side of that, I think I haven't had those moments where I just was like, gosh, I wish I had a partner. And when I do, they're just like, I would love a hot cup of coffee right now. I don't really care who delivers it, whether it's a husband or, someone just in my house.
Room service.
Yeah, exactly. I haven't had those moments as much as I thought. And that's been really surprising to me. And I think yeah, my level of just kind of contentment and pure joy and happiness is, I guess, a little bit surprising. You
Me
know,
too. And it's like,
how complete it feels.
yes, your cup is full with
Yeah,
being a mom. And I feel that way too. I also feel like it's, it, I say this not in a pessimistic way. So I want to make sure I say it that way. But, we've experienced enough life to know that like I've seen a lot of hard stuff in marriage. And so in a lot of ways, I feel like, it's simplified things, I mean, as silly as it is to like pick your child's name without having to compromise or argue or whatever, that's just an example of a lot of little decisions along the way that don't have to be over exhausted in conversation. There doesn't have to be compromise is important in life. That's a life skill we need to be able to do. So I'm not saying, oh, I never have to compromise. I don't mean it like that. But I just mean it that I can ask the opinions of people I love and trust and get counsel and pray about things. But I don't have to go through the exercise of an exhausting conversation about every decision, and I feel like in some ways that's been a gift. And I feel
I
like
agree.
also in some ways there's just a lot of gifts that come with being a solo mom, that simplifies a lot of things that are a surprising benefit. And then of course, there are moments that are hard too. So I don't want to anyone listening that's considering this, I mean, and I do have older kids. So I have had those moments where one of my boys had said, I want a daddy. And the other, this just happened recently, and my older one's like, no, we don't want mama to get married because then we have to share her with somebody. And so
Oh,
the little one said that, and then I said, do you want mommy to be married? And he's like, yes. And then my older one's like, no, we don't want her to get married because then we'd have to share her time. It's so funny. And, but the thing that's important, like in a conversation like that, is I want them to have a healthy viewpoint of marriage. And I want them to have a healthy viewpoint of having a relationship. And so, they see their grandparents are married and living in our home, and they have godparents. We have 3 couples in our lives that are married, and they're uncles to my boys. And we have, we have a lot of people in our life who are married. And so they're seeing that modeled, but it's important for me to talk about it, even if I'm not, to talk about that. I do value that. And that's something that they can pursue in their future. But so there are moments like that, or there's moments also where, I'm grateful, like with that I do have people in my life, again, like my parents, who I can be like, isn't that so cute? Or look at what this award he won, or, oh, look at his, like how he's helping his friend, or, like to be able to almost brag, but also enjoy the moment. It's not even like a brag, but it's just truly that joy,
just
that joy
sharing
in
it with
your heart.
somebody.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sharing it. So I feel like I do have that with other people. It's just not like my spouse. So
Yeah.
I think it's important to have that because it is important to like share in the joy of children and how wonderful they are and how beautiful they are and the ways in which they're growing and developing and becoming more and more who God made them to be. It's a beautiful thing to behold, and it's wonderful to share it with people. So it's
Yeah.
just important to be able to share that with people in your life. And so it doesn't have to be a spouse. It can be other people, and the joy is there.
Yeah. I totally agree. I thought it would be more like, gosh, I wish I could pass this baby off because I needed to nap or something. And it's more on the kind of positive flip side of that is I wish there
Yeah.
was somebody here right now, to be here
Yes.
with me.
Yeah.
And so often it is my family or it's my friends and there is somebody there, but I couldn't agree with you more. Those are the moments that I've had. And just like anything, I think, but having a baby and growing a family and being a solo parent, it's almost exactly what I thought it would be, but it's so different on some of those like deeper cognitive levels than I thought it would be. And the things that are filling my cup are different, and the things that are feeling hard are totally different than what I thought that they would be. And the whole experience, I think, is just so transformative, as I know you agree with.
Absolutely. And better than expected,
Yes.
And I think that's another thing too that we may have, sorry if I'm repeating myself. I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't remember, but it's just that notion that like solo mama feels different to me than the connotation of single mom. And I have love and compassion for both scenarios of both people, women in those scenarios. But one thing that I think about the lens in which I view things is that I don't view things in the lens of I wish I had, or this is frustrating that I don't have, because this someone to share this with, like the responsibility or the financial weight or the whatever, because I made this choice. And so that doesn't mean, oh, bear the burden by yourself. What I mean by that is I just don't automatically go there. I think if you had someone in your life that you were sharing responsibility with, and then you're no longer sharing that responsibility, there could be some real resentment and some real frustration and a real process you'd have to go through in your mind and your heart to be able to go through your now new normal with joy and without comparing it to what you had.
Yeah.
Whereas in the scenario that we entered into motherhood, we entered it knowing that there wasn't going to be that shared piece. So on the daily, I'm not thinking about I wish there was another person, because it's not my lived experience. So my lived experience is just how are we doing today? Me and my kids, how are we doing today? That's how I think about it.
Yeah. When you think about this little gal coming in, what are you the most excited about?
Oh, I mean, so many things. I'm excited about seeing my boys become big brothers to a little sister. Yeah. I'm really excited about that. And I think that it's going to bring a whole new layer of love into their hearts. And I think it's also going to bring a whole new level of responsibility into their lives.
At that age.
At their ages, that they're going to be able to be helpers. Like it's not their responsibility, but just the family communal notion of compromise that comes, that we do together of well, she has a nap, or, we need to do this, or we need to go at this time, or we need to do it like this. And just some of those things that teach and stretch all of us, to kind of die to self and to help a little one who needs our time and attention, but still get to do the other things too, and figure out that she's going to just be that little sister that is going to be at the soccer ball fields, so stuff like that too. So I think it's just a life, sibling family dynamic that I think grows in their heart and in mind. So I'm excited about that. I am totally excited to have a girl. I came from a girl family and girl cousins and all this stuff. And then it's kind of funny because my sister had 2 boys, and so I have nephews, and I've had boys. And so, I just feel like I am excited about just the little
different energy.
Having some pink and the different energy. Yeah. I'm excited for a little girl that I hope wants to play with baby dolls like I did or something, and getting to experience life again through the eyes of a little girl. I've been able to do that through little boys, and it's been such a joy, and they've brought so much into my life. The whole boy world they brought to me that I never had, with trains and construction and sports and all these things. And that's been super fun, and so I'm excited to do almost like little girl things again through her eyes, and so I'm really excited about that.
And then you get the little baby stretches and all the little, I've been hanging out with a lot of newborns lately, and I'm like, just those little chicken legs and the arms that kind of shoot out of nowhere. And oh my God, it just kills me.
I know. And I love babies too. And some people don't love it and some people do. And I love it all. So to get to have the privilege of doing it again would just be such a dream come true.
Well, please keep me in the loop when she arrives and send me pictures. And thanks so much for doing this update. I appreciate it. I think as the podcast is always supposed to be just kind of a million different avenues for how to do this and how to build a family. And I think having multiples is such a big part of that I'm so grateful for your story and for you sharing.
No, of course. And I thank you for having me and to get to be able to share it again. I do want to leave you with this. I've been thinking about it a lot. And it's a quote that's kind of been real in my life with my kids. But then here I am again, just blown away. It's like at 46 that this could happen. It's amazing to me. It's a quote from Under the Tuscan Sun, but it's about the train tracks. It says they built a train track over the Alps to connect Vienna and Venice. They built these tracks even before there was a train in existence that could make the trip. They built it because they knew someday the train would come. And I just love that. I just have been sitting with that notion, just believing that God has a baby girl for us. And it's, it is late in the game. I think it goes on to say that, but it's so surprising to know that wonderful, amazing things can happen late in the game. And I think it says it's such a surprise. And it really does feel like this is a surprise and a really joyous one that we're really excited about.
Yeah. Well, good luck with everything. Keep me in the loop.
I will.
And I'll let you get back to your busy day. But thank you so much again. And I look forward to hearing how everything goes. Thanks so much for listening to today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. For more information about the podcast or me, go to youandmekidpod.com. See you soon.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If you or your company are looking to jump into the podcast world, now is the time. The Plug Agency is here to connect you to the full power of podcasting. You just record and leave the rest to us. The people are listening and want to hear from you. theplug-agency.com. That's theplug-agency.com. Click the link in the episode description for an exclusive offer.